It's Not Another Buffalo Podcast, hosted by three of the most underqualified sports personalities this side of the canal. With John.
All you people out there who are like, these idiots don't know anything. First of all, you're right. And second of all,
I'm just a dad talking in a closet, but I'm just saying.
And Brando.
We have this trust built on whatever it is, like Bibles and gold bricks and whatever Brandon Bean's drinking over there.
all right, welcome back to Not Another Buffalo Podcast. I'm John. I'm here with my buddy Brando.
What's up?
Recording here on a Tuesday evening. This episode is brought to you guys by Small City Realty. If you're looking to buy, sell, or manage property in Western New York, you got to call our guy, Zach Korzelius, at 585-409-1088. Again, that's buying, selling, or property management in Western New York. Our guy is Zach Korzelius, 585-409-1088. And make sure you tell him that the boys from NABP sent you, because he'll be super happy about that. So, but Brando, how are you doing? We're counting down the days to the season here. One preseason game down. Obviously, we're not going to reflect on that too much in this episode because it's been well documented, the shortcomings of the Bills second stringers and starters and pretty much everybody who touched the field. But how are you feeling about the season? You excited yet?
I hate the preseason.
Does it feel real?
I hate the preseason. I always say it. I'll say it every year until we get here. I hate the preseason. I hate doing the games. I don't like working the games. I hate talking about it. Give me the best preseason of all time was when we had Josh Allen. The preseason was interesting when we had quarterback battles. That was what I wanted to see. You mean
Josh Allen's rookie year?
Yes. Or, okay. Give me Edwards-Lossman. Give me EJ Manuel, Kevin Cobb.
Tyrod Taylor.
Any of these.
Battle.
Nate Peterman that goes into the season, whatever. If there's a quarterback battle, I'm interested. We have risen past the battle. I don't think Mitch Trubisky is battling for playing time anytime soon here. Make it through without getting hurt. And we saw Matt Milano get hurt today, a little bit of an arm issue. They kind of were worried about it. I don't know. It seemed like they were overreacting, but you can't really overreact when you've had a guy miss, a season and a half with injuries in his career. So just get me through this. Just get me to the season opener at home against the Cardinals. I'm ready for it. Let the coordinators do everything. Sean McDermott should be chilling. This is the time that you do that. It
sounds like he is. From what we hear, it sounds like he is chilling a little bit. Yeah. Like he's a little bit more hands off this year. Everything down to challenges, right? He's got what's his name up in the booth, and we're 2 for 2 on challenges in the preseason, which
that's more than he won all last year, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So
I like that stat. That was funny.
Well, I want to go back to something you said before. You said you hate working preseason games. I would have thought, like, if I was just guessing, that preseason games are more fun to work because it's a lot more family oriented. It's a little less intense. Right. A lot more families bring their kids to those games because it's cheaper and because it's, the vibe is a little less intense, right? Especially if you want to bring your kids. I remember going to preseason games at like 5 years old and just loving it. So
really?
What makes it worse than a regular season game to work?
Well, also, I feel like even as a kid, I'm like, where's JP Lossman? Where's Trent Edwards? I never went to one as a kid. There is more kids. There's a lot more kids. It's really funny to see the whole different group of people that come to the games, good and bad, because there's some shenanigans that always goes down. You get a different group of people that are allowed in here for the first time. They might not know the traditions and the rules and whatnot and the etiquette and stuff, but no, they're super uneventful. They're so long because these guys take so many penalties. I can't. It's just you don't know when it's going to end. You got 70 holding calls, a couple of false starts, whatever. I don't know. I just, I want to be done. I actually had to work my other job on Saturday, so I did not work this preseason game. But again, I met Josh Allen in the preseason. His first preseason game, I think it's like August 18th, August 12th, whatever one was in Buffalo in 2018. The picture always comes up this time of year. The players are more likely to talk to you. They're going to be friendly as long as they're healthy and happy with their contract situation. So,
right.
But other than that, man, get me to the only thing is I don't like to wish away the last part of the summer. I go back to school August 27th. So it is cool to have them line up the school year and the football season, but I don't care for this. And we just saw it again. It's like between July and September, don't get hurt, don't get arrested, and make it there. Just make it there.
Yeah. Well, today's episode, obviously, if you saw the title and listened this far, hopefully you're at least interested in the gambling side of football, I guess. But even if you're not, and you're just, you're a loyal listener, like, I think that this episode will still be interesting. And this is the caveat I do every single time we do a betting themed episode, because, if I was not into casual sports betting, I would probably want to tune out too. But it can bring up a lot of interesting debates, because we're talking about season long over unders. We're talking about what the people who are paid to think about the Bills' chances think. We're looking at their Super Bowl odds, Josh's MVP odds, and just kind of where they stack up against the rest of the league, and where it aligns with our expectations of the team, which is, the entertaining part, because we're going to talk about that and poo-poo some things. And
it's just like the last week episode, we are not national pundits. We don't pick records, and the USA Today standings projections is not giving the Bills 14 wins like we did on here. So where do we stack up as homers? We have a lot of Bills props here. We can look at the team, and we have some national props too to look around the league. But this is probably my favorite episode of the year. You just get to, it's very much inside the fantasy football realm. You get to project who's going to do the best. You're building a thesis for a player, and you think about it like a stock market. I think I've used this example before. It's like, give me the bull thesis. Like, why is it going to go up? Or give me the short thesis. Why you think it's going to go down.
Is it a bull thesis, or is the thesis bull? We'll find out at the end of the season.
Boom, boom. That was good.
But, all right, where do you want to start? Do you want to look at just like start with Super Bowl odds? Because I think that's a good place to start with this team.
Yeah.
I had it written down last year where they fell historically in the last few years, but this is not the Buffalo Bills of 2 years ago where they are the favorites to win the Super Bowl, right? Coming off of the 13 seconds year, they get Von Miller, and everyone's popular pick was for the Bills. That's not where they are. Right now, they sit 7th in the odds, tied for 6th, technically, with the Philadelphia Eagles at plus 1,500 on DraftKings Sportsbook. So do you think that's fair? Let's look at the teams above them. Do you think that they have better Super Bowl odds than any of the teams above them? So directly above them or tied with them is the Philadelphia Eagles. Bengals are above that at plus 1,300. Lions plus 1,200 coming out of the NFC above them. Ravens above that at plus 1,000. 49ers at plus 600. And the reigning champs, the Chiefs, at plus 500.
So does that put the Bills 4th in the AFC?
It would be Chiefs, Ravens, Bengals, and then Bills. Yes.
It's probably about right. Maybe I could even see them being lower than that. Just they're giving some respect to Josh Allen's 17, because you could make an argument that the Texans might be more favored with their schedule and the way that their division is, and they might set themselves up to be at home in the playoffs, where the Bills, might still be good, but with their division and their tough schedule, might be looking at a road trip for the playoff run. Who else in the AFC?
Houston is right behind the Bills at plus 1,600, so only a little bit back.
But it's super respectable. I feel like there's no reason to not bet it. If we don't give financial advice here, but if you're a Bills fan and you want to put $5 on that and be happy with your 50 and 57, whatever it is, $57 in February for your Valentine's Day present. I'm doing the math in my head. I can't do math in my head. So I think they're slotted pretty fairly, maybe even a little higher than I would have anticipated, just with the way that this roster has changed. But you got 17 at quarterback. You could win any game at any time, anywhere on the planet.
Yeah. So 2 pieces of advice for those of you out there. The emotional hedge. Having a sum of money on the Bills to win the Super Bowl can set you up for a double disappointment. So be prepared for that. All right. You're making a double investment there. Secondly, also look out for the promos that these sports books have when it comes to betting the Super Bowl winner, because sometimes they'll give you a promo where you get free bets every time your team wins a game or something like that. So check all the sports books, mostly DraftKings, and find a promo that makes it worth it, because that's usually the only features that I actually take for these seasons, because I don't set $100 aside to split up between futures bets. Like if I feel really strongly about a couple things, I'll put $5-10 on it for the entire season. But it does take a lot of conviction to part with that $5 for the the duration of the season for things that are considered similarly fair odds to the week-to-week props that we get as well.
Yeah.
It's not like you're getting a ton more value on the year-long props.
No, and you think about inflation, man. You have your money tied up that long.
Right.
It's $5 now is worth $4.40 6 months from now. So you never know. But I think
you're not wrong.
If you're doing a year-long bet, and maybe it was Mike Francisca was talking about this, and he did one, and he was like, but it has to be enough to keep me into it for the whole year. So I think he did 10 grand. He was doing 10 grand on me.
Jeez.
I could be wrong. It might not be him. Who's the other guy that was his partner? Mad Dog and Mike and Mad Dog. Maybe it was Mad Dog, the guy that goes on.
Can't remember.
These sports talks. One of those two hosts. But they did it, and he's like 10 grand. He's like, otherwise, it's not worth it for me to tie up my money for this long. So every now and then you get lucky too on a cash out, or if Josh Allen smashes his 3,700 yards in week 13 or week 14, you get paid out early maybe. But these are risky. I remember last year, I think I had like $104 left over from the NFL season. So I put that into some futures and I won some, and I think I ended up with exactly $100 again. So it's like, it's like, oh, right. I forgot about this. So
win some, you lose some.
But let's get into it. Let's go through the players.
The way DraftKings has props spread out, it's kind of cool because they have not just an over-under for each player. You can go and look at that, but they have odds for like 750 plus reception yards, 1,000 plus reception yards, 5 plus reception TDs, 7 plus reception TDs. So let's go through some of those. And I wrote down a couple of players that caught my eye, mostly Bills players, but then, a couple other people here that I thought were at least interesting props. So let's start things off at 750 plus reception yards. Dalton Kincaid is minus money. So he's minus 120 to clear that mark. And we're all thinking Dalton Kincaid is going to be number one in this offense, probably nearing 1,000 yards. So I think that's a bet it for me.
Yeah.
Minus 120. I mean, obviously that's negative odds. Not super exciting when you're talking about season long props, but I think that's a very safe number. I think that Dalton Kincaid can still miss 2 games and clear that line pretty easily if he does what we expect him to do.
670. Dalton Kincaid came close. I mean, close is a relative term in the NFL, but how could you not think he's going to get, 673 yards last season in a reduced role as a rookie? Yeah, you need 100 more yards. 7 yards a game?
And here's another interesting angle to it. Khalil Shakir has the same exact odds for the same exact number.
Really?
So if you were to pick between those two, don't you think you would probably take Kincaid?
For sure.
Just because, obviously, he's probably going to have more catches than Khalil Shakir. That's a lock. But Khalil's going to have probably more of those long breaks, longer receptions in there to kind of, bring the average yards per reception up quite a bit.
Well, Joe Brady, I think on the radio today said something. Bro, Jody, bro. He was talking about how the yak yards, right? So when you're in the preseason and you just have the pads and you're tapping and you're thumping, you're not really tackling. So you don't get the true run after the catch yardage in training camp feel. But when you start getting these joint practices like they have against the Steelers this week and into the preseason, you see some of these players show that talent. And I think you saw it with Khalil on Saturday.
You saw it in the preseason game.
And you saw it with Coleman. I mean, he caught the short little curl route and curled it upfield for an extra handful of yards. So I wonder if you could parlay them together at 750. I'd be interested. I probably wouldn't do 1,000 for either of them, but they're going to be close to each other.
Yeah.
That's a good number.
Yeah. So I like both of those. And your boy, Curtis Samuel, plus 150 to clear that 750 receiving yards mark. So, Brandon, are you going to put your money where your mouth is for this
plus 150 to go over 750 yards?
Yep. That's just receiving, though. That's just receiving. All right. Brando's got his wallet out. I hope you know that DraftKings doesn't accept cash.
Did you see the dust fall out?
Is that your last dollar?
Yeah. Well,
Brandon is spending his literal last dollar on Curtis Samuel plus 150.
No, I'm going to hammer that.
750 yards.
Oh, for sure.
All right. Well, if you like that,
I'm so happy about that. That's awesome. You're going to
like some of the other ones that I have on here too. God. So
what is Vegas doing?
Anyway, next up, just one person in this prop, but is rushing TDs. DraftKings has a category for 10 plus rush TDs. And who do you think we're looking at?
Ray Davis?
No, it's the guy himself, Josh Allen, who had
Patrick Allen
15 rushing touchdowns last year. Don't forget, And not just 15 rushing touchdowns. He had 11 games with a passing and a rushing touchdown. So
that's awesome.
There's room for regression in that. I like Josh Allen, 10 plus rushing TDs, right at almost even money minus the sportsbook take. So it's minus 110 for him to do 10 plus rushing TDs this year. Don't love the odds number on that, but I feel like I think that's a safe bet.
I would be curious to talk about the level of regression that we expect here, because he's averaged 7 his career before this. I think like 5, 8, 6, 7. So to get to 15, you look at a player's, I think of looking at the back of a baseball card when you look at their stats, and you get a couple of crazy seasons in their peak. So are we going to look back and say 15? Wow. Or is this where he comes in at 12 again and maybe 11 the next year, and then they start going back down to 8, 6, 7, whatever it is. So I would be curious if this is an outlier. I think the more that you see it around the league, that these quarterbacks score touchdowns with their legs, whether it's the tush push, spread them out wide and draw it up the middle, or, Allen breaks 55-yard runs for touchdowns. So I think that's what separates him, right? They're not all Jalen Hurts style touchdowns. So 10's tough. I probably would do something small on that. I don't know if I feel super confident in that, whereas he might regress. You have Ray Davis in the backfield, as I previously mentioned.
Good point.
I would love to see James Cook get a couple goal line touches for my sake, because I'm keeping him in my keeper league. So let's get some touchdowns.
Don't forget
here,
last
James
year.
Cook.
Do you remember? I was going to say, do you remember last year? I mean, James Cook didn't have a rushing touchdown for like the first 10 weeks of the season or something.
His line was like 3 last year. And I remember thinking that was absurd. And obviously I'm not working for Vegas. So,
right.
But we'll see.
Crazy. It seems like it was weird. He'd run continuously, get them inside the 10-yard line, and then all of a sudden a different back would come in, which makes sense. Like your goal line back is a little bit different. And this year, the difference is it's not going to be Latavius Murray or Damian Harris. It's going to be Ray Davis, most likely. And he looks good. He plowed over somebody in the preseason game. So
he's getting a lot of work at camp too, I think. But
no impressive numbers from the preseason game, but
I'll tell you the play I like at the goal line.
Well blocked, but
based on my NCAA 25 college gameplay is that jet wide receivers.
It's the jet sweep.
Pass.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
give it to Samuel.
We're going to get to that in a second. I actually have that written down as a note.
That counts as a reception and not a rush though.
It does. It does. So it does. So anyway, our next category is 5+ receiving TDs. So before you slam all your money on Dalton Kincaid minus 175, because Dalton Kincaid 5+ touchdowns sounds like a good bet in theory. You only had 2 last year. I didn't realize that number was so low, because I remember Dalton Kincaid scoring touchdowns. I'm pretty sure Dawson Knox had more receiving touchdowns than Dalton Kincaid.
He always does. Does Kincaid get one in the playoff game?
He probably has some in the playoffs. That doesn't include playoff numbers. Okay. So playoff games too. So
yeah. I think that'll happen. If Josh gets close to his average again of 30 touchdowns through the air, and you're delegating those out to the players around him right now, you're going to get 6 for everybody, I think.
Well, you know who the biggest vacated touchdown getter was last year? It's not Stephon Diggs, right? I mean, actually, Stephon Diggs probably had 8, but who comes in second?
You say Gabe Davis?
Gabe Davis, yeah. So that's 15 vacated touchdowns.
Yeah.
If you're thinking of similar numbers. So
yeah,
that's a lot. That's a lot. Gabe Davis we'll get to him in a second. We're going to come back to Gabe Davis in just a second. But Keon Coleman was next on that list. He is at minus 110 for that prop. How do you feel about that?
I don't know. I feel like Coleman could have 4 and it would be okay.
Yeah, I'm kind of in there too. I don't really know what that's going to look like. He could have 4 or he could have 6.
9.
I think 6 would be a great year. I mean, 9 would be crazy. We're going to circle back to Gabe Davis plus 150 for 5+ reception TDs. And we just discussed that he had 7 last year.
And he's on the Jags?
He's on the Jags now. Do you think he gets 5 in that receiver room?
I have another one here from the Jags that I wrote down that was interesting. Trevor Lawrence over 21.5 passing touchdowns is minus 120. So
that seems like a very low number.
Yeah, I thought so too, especially with the way that they kind of beefed up their team this offseason, bringing in Gabe Davis. They did lose Calvin Ridley, but he had 21 last year. He had 25 the year before that, 12 of them in his rookie year. He had a bad rookie year, 17 picks, 21 TDs, 14 interceptions. I feel like he's got to go over that, right? Who else do they have over there in Jacksonville in their receiver room?
What's his name? Mr. Overpaid. Although he's not super overpaid anymore now that the receiver market has reset.
Christian Kirk.
Christian Kirk, thank you.
And Brian Thomas Jr.
That's right.
Interesting.
Rookie, so
they got an interesting team. We're going to see
but
them.
I think that, I mean, if Gabe Davis has 7 touchdowns in a year where he's putting up zeros most weeks, or not most weeks, but like some weeks along the way,
5 weeks in the year,
he's a red zone target. I know. Did the Jags even still have Evan Ingram? Is he still there?
Yeah.
So he's a good red zone target. Yeah. But yeah, anyway, I kind of like that because it's plus money. If that was negative money, I'd be like, eh. Yeah. But Gabe Davis,
well, that's what they do. They give you the hook. I mean, that's the hook right there.
So 2 more. Your boy Curtis Samuel plus 250. Take it or pass on 5+ TDs, reception TDs. And remember, come back to what we were thinking about. The jet sweeps are receptions.
Plus 250 for 5 touchdowns, and plus 150 for 750 yards.
Yep.
I heard this right? Professionals set this line. Am I crazy? Am I so crazy to think that those are so low?
You're setting yourself up for a good postseason clip for me to clip this back. Oh my
goodness. It's crazy. Parlay them together. We need to pay off some bills here. I need some Curtis Samuel love from the national pundits here.
Now don't forget how many touchdowns did Amon-Ra St. Brown have that year? That
5.
He was 5. So, but he had 900 receiving yards, right?
As a rookie.
So I feel a little bit better about the receiving line, Curtis Samuel 750 plus, than I do about 5 touchdowns, because I'm thinking like 3 or 4 touchdowns for Samuel, maybe. I mean, I'd be happy with 4 or 5, but
his career high is 6 with the Panthers with Joe Brady. And I guess he had 5. So if Joe Brady's there for a season and a half, in 2018 he had 5. In 2019 he had 6. But my thing for you is we talk about this with the Bills receivers, Dalton Kincaid around 5, Curtis Samuel 5-6, Keon Coleman 4 or 5. You know, that's like 18 touchdowns. Where's the other 20 coming from? Now who's catching them? Dawson Knox gets 5.
I want to see that's 20. I want to see the touchdowns breakdown here.
Because it's just if we look at these numbers and you add them all up, and Josh's numbers is 27 for total passing touchdowns in a season. One of these guys is going to get it. One of them is going to get more touchdowns than this line by a good chunk. We just have to figure out which one it is.
Last year, the TD reception distribution was Stephon Diggs with 8, Gabe Davis with 7. Those are all vacated. So that's where your TDs got to go somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Like probably a lot of those to Kincaid, probably a couple to Shakir. Below that, James Cook with 4, Dalton Kincaid with 2. I feel like James Cook is going to catch more than 4 touchdowns this year.
He dropped 3 of them.
He probably dropped 3 touchdowns last year too. So if he catches those, I guess I'm wishfully thinking that. Dalton Kincaid had 2, Dawson Knox had 2, Khalil Shakir had 2, and then Quentin Morris with 1, Ty Johnson with 1, Trent Sherfield, Deontay Hardy, and that's it. That's all the touchdowns.
Interesting. Okay. Well, you take a couple from the running backs too. Then maybe you give 1 to James Cook for making up for his buttery hands that he's got in Philly. And what was the other one? There was another egregious one that he dropped too. So even if you conservatively move those numbers around and you take 2 from Diggs, give it to Samuel, take 2 from Davis, give them to Kincaid, and maybe we don't have as many. What did Josh have last year? 28,
29.
And then 15 on the ground. Jesus. So he's going to get 35. How he gets them is going to be the question. So I don't know.
You might be able to talk me into Curtis Samuel 5+ TDs. You might be able to. But again, it might be 4 reception TDs and 2 rushing TDs too. Yeah. So could be that, which would be heartbreaking. But anyway, let me just fly through this in one question. Yeah. Is there anybody on the Bills that you would bet, even in plus money, for 7+ reception TDs?
If I had to pick one, it would be Dalton Kincaid.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
The competition with Knox is what's driving me away from that. And that's where I lean more towards Samuel. It'd be Samuel or Kincaid, but I feel like...
Really? You'd consider Samuel. So once I read you these odds, if you had to pick between those two, because of the odds value, you're going to want to pick Samuel.
Well, what is Samuel at? Like 800, plus 800 for this?
So Dalton Kincaid is plus 175.
Okay.
Keon Coleman plus 400. Probably wouldn't bet that either. Khalil Shakir plus 450, which is interesting because Dalton Kincaid and Khalil Shakir have very similar odds for yards. Curtis Samuel, you said plus 800 was your guess? Plus 1,000 for
what?
7+ touchdowns.
Oh my goodness. If he's Stephon Diggs light, like I've been told by pundits that he is, 7 if he stays healthy. If he stays healthy.
Yeah. There's a lot of ifs in that statement. Like you can count the ifs. So
there's
but again,
two. There's
plus,
two.
plus 1,000.
If he is the Stephon Diggs light, then if he stays healthy, But I like that too. I'm gonna have to really play around with this, and I'm gonna have to deposit some money into DraftKings to put my money where my mouth is. We can post it on Twitter, and you can pin it, and you guys can all make fun of me when he falls flat on his face. But then we're really all losers in that sense. At least if the Bills win and he just doesn't produce as much, I'll eat that. But I don't know. 7 is a high number. Every other game scoring a touchdown. I love that. Plus 1,000.
7 is a lot. Gabe Davis was in the top 10 of receivers for receiving TDs across the league.
7 puts you in the top 10.
I want to say it puts you in the top 10. Let me verify that really quick.
That's interesting. That's not that many, I think.
Not what you would think. So last year, Mike Evans led the way with 13, tied with Tyreek Hill, CeeDee Lamb with 12. I'm going to skip who's next. Don't look at it because I don't want to spoil another prop.
I'm not.
Sam Laporta had 10. Anyway, so okay, I lied. So Gabe Davis was tied for 18th in the NFL.
Still top 20.
Sorry. Yeah.
It's number 1 receiver touchdowns, but
it is definitely number 1 receiver touchdowns. So some other guys on that list that might surprise you are like Jaden Reed, DJ Moore, Keenan Allen. I didn't even realize Keenan Allen, was still putting up numbers
last year.
Well, I'm sorry.
No, he did well. He missed games as he always does.
Yeah. So 2 more people I want to talk about 7+ reception TDs and what your opinion is. Stephon Diggs is plus 175, had 8 last year.
Probably not.
Probably not. I also think that's a crowded receiver room, but I also think that CJ Stroud is going to throw a crap ton of TDs this year. Yeah. Also, so
I just Diggs can have 7. Nico Collins can have 7. Tank Dell can have 7.
Yeah.
How many people are going to have 7 on a team?
Well, let me just run one more thing by you here. I only have a couple of odds written down in the 10+ reception TD category. So first, what odds would you take and bet for Sam Laporta to match his last year total of 10 TDs?
What odds would I take?
Yeah,
it's probably negative money.
No, it's plus money, but what's the minimum?
Plus 100.
Like you'd take it for plus 100.
Yeah.
All right. Well, good news. It's plus 450. So
wow.
you might want to hop on that.
Why would they think he's going to be worse?
Because he had an outstanding first season and 10 receptions is like tied for 4th.
Yeah. He's my fantasy darling this year in my keeper league. I got him in the 15th round. Last pick. So I got him in the 15th and James Cook in the 7th. Those are my 2 keepers for this keeper league. So I hope he matches it. I feel like that's worth putting money on.
Well, do you got anything else that sticks out to you? That's pretty much all I have written down.
I have a little bit of a list here, but we're going to go quick through here. And I want you to rapid fire me, 30 seconds per one. Ready? Cardinals over 6.5.
Wins?
Yep.
Is that plus money or is that their actual line?
Okay. FanDuel has them at 6.5. Sorry. Schmamduel. DraftKings has him at 6.5, but I don't see any odds here. To finish with 6 or fewer wins is plus 135. To win at least 7 games is minus 160.
I could see him at 7 and 10.
Yeah. I think that's over. Like I wrote that down because I thought it was low.
I could see him at 7 and 10, but I don't know. Like that really is like the brink. Like if it was over 7.5 wins, I would slam the under.
Really? I think they're 8-9. 9-8 team. Kyler Williams. Kyler Murray with Harrison Jr.
Marvin Harrison Jr. Yeah.
Yep. And James Conner again existing in
James Conner. That dude's got to be getting old at some point. I can only draft him for so many fantasy seasons beyond this. Like he overproduced for me last year as well.
He overproduces every year. So I don't know. That's a good one to think about. But okay, let me keep going through here.
Also, it's worth noting how many Call of Duties are supposed to come out within the season.
Black Ops 6, man. It's supposed to be pretty good. Yeah.
All right. Just one. Give me the under.
Yeah. Malik Neighbors, the true number 1 wide receiver from the New York Giants, 850 yards. Over is minus 115. He's going to get like 140 targets probably.
Maybe, but it's the Giants too. When was the last time the Giants produced a 900-yard receiver?
Odell Beckham Jr. when he dragged Eli Manning out of his grave to throw. When OBJ had like 1,100 yards as a rookie, something like that.
So it's possible, but it's not Eli Manning. And the bar's not that high.
Yeah. Well, it's the bearded Daniel Jones, so we might see something else. But
yeah, well, all
right. I wish Pat was here for this one, but Will Levis over 3,450 passing yards minus 115.
What's Josh's line?
3,750.
Okay, you might be able to get me on board with that.
These are low. These seems so low.
They are, but like it's because it takes into account all the things that can go wrong through a season where quarterbacks miss time. Like if Will Levis is diving into linebackers head first like he did last year, is he going to be not concussed for the entire year?
Was Josh Allen concussed at all? I'm knocking on the wood on my table in my living room. Or
I don't know.
Whatever room. No, he's not.
This is the Celino and Barnes ad where it says past results do not guarantee future outcomes.
Yes, that's true. That's true. Okay. I just thought it was interesting. 17-game season. If he stays healthy, it's doable, I thought.
I think it's definitely doable. It's just whether or not I'm, taking that risk for a full season.
Yeah. Okay. Next one. Caleb Williams, rookie of the year, plus 115.
I'd take that.
Yeah. I thought that was pretty good odds for that. They're loaded.
Is he the most likely?
Yeah.
Okay. Who's second? Marvin Harrison Jr.?
I'm not sure. It might be. Yeah. Yeah, I think. I didn't get the odds on that.
But
okay.
Yeah.
Next one.
Take that.
Achane, over 775 rushing yards, minus 115.
How many did he have last year?
800 on 103 attempts and 8 touchdowns. God, this guy's good. This guy is good.
I don't know he was really good last year too. So I don't know if I want him to. I'll do it because it's not like they were using him right off the bat last year. So if he has a full season of usage,
100 carries, that's insane. 8.5 yards per carry.
It's a lot. It's fast.
Even if he regresses to 6 and he gets 150 carries, I don't know. I feel like he was hitting home run after home run after home run last year. It was something to watch.
Yeah.
Okay, quickly. Joe Burrow over 4,025 passing yards, minus 115.
That's a big number for a guy who hasn't. It is. He hasn't always been available.
I know. I just block that part out. I don't even think about that. I'm just thinking of the star quarterback that I see on Madden, and he plays all the games and blows this number through the roof.
That's a big over-under number for quarterback too. 4,000 yards. Quarterbacks pass that all the time. That's true, but
in 17 games, I think he passes it. That's my take. He can't get hurt every year that he's in the league. All right, he's due for some better luck. All right, we're going to look at the NFC North. The teams to finish 1-2. Lions first, Packers 7th. Lions first, Packers second, plus 320 in that exact order.
I like that, but I think that there's probably actually a general, there's a chance that those could be flip-flopped. But I do like those two teams to finish 1-2.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think it's going to come down to the games against the Bears. The Packers own the Bears. The Lions pawned the Bears. It's like they owned them, they give it back, and they got to get it back, whatever. So I don't know. I think it's close. I like that for that number, that plus 320. So I don't know, but
yeah, I like those odds.
Okay, I got a couple fun ones here to finish the show with. The team with the lowest win total is the Patriots, coming in at the favorite right now at 5-1.
Okay, who's second?
I didn't get that far. It was a headline.
Let's not kid ourselves. It's going to be the Patriots.
I hope so. That's why I put him here.
Everybody says Drake May looks like in practice, so he's got a long way to go. But
the guy on the radio today said Jacoby Brissett's their starter, right? In theory. That he went 14 of 27 with 5 interceptions and 9 sacks in his first team reps. And then Drake May went 7 of 14 with 8 sacks and 4 interceptions in his reps. How do you have this many sacks? I don't understand.
No way.
So that looks great in Foxborough. Love to see that for you bumps. Okay, next up. Highest individual passing game of the season. The yardage total is set at 490.5 yards. It's minus 115 either side of this bet. If you had bet this over each season for the last 10 seasons, you'd be 7-3. So it's profitable.
I was going to say, who had a 500-yard passing game last year? Tua, probably.
Yeah.
I would take the under on that.
Really?
Yeah. I think that the years of the crazy offense have swayed that.
Okay. Now I have a question for you, and maybe this is silly talk, but does the kickoff return set up for more offense?
It sets up for less yardage.
Less yardage, more scoring.
The average starting position is going to be further forward, right?
But then if you're going to talk the field possession game.
Yeah, more scoring, but less, less passing yards per drive as well. So
yeah. So I thought that was interesting. You think more scoring as a team, less yards. But yeah, we'll see how that plays out. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
All right. And last but not least, the longest field goal in the NFL to be over 62.5 yards, and it's minus 115. And there has only been, I want to say I saw 3 kicks. I'll read this exactly to what it is. There have only been 3 field goals of 63 yards or more made in the last 10 seasons. Only one of them was outdoors when Graham Gano kicked a 63-yard game winner against the Giants. And you want to take a look around.
Didn't Graham Gano play for the Giants?
At some point, I think so. Yes, but this was
he played
was
for the
against Panthers. Yeah.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So Justin Tucker made the 66-yarder against the Lions.
You know what I did? I pulled up the Baltimore Ravens schedule. How many games do they play indoors?
Now, here's one that you might be thinking of, actually. So the Denver Broncos have the highest altitude, right?
Right.
So Harrison Butker plays the Broncos week 18.
It's going to be cold. Too cold.
Oh, Harrison Butker. He's the Chiefs kicker. That's not.
Yes. Justin Tucker plays at the Chiefs first week at Baltimore. He plays in the Cowboys Stadium. That's a good chance. Yeah. Ravens host the Bills. Then they go to the Bengals. It's on their home. Tampa Bay, Browns. They go to Pittsburgh. They go to LA and the Chargers. That's another dome.
Well, no, it's not. It's outside, isn't it? In the Coliseum outside. It's just beautiful out all the time. So we think it's a dome.
No, the Chargers play at SoFi.
SoFi. Yeah.
So it's a dome, but it's turf, and then they play against the Texans in Texas. So they have 3 dome games on the schedule. So I think that's doable, right?
62.5. I feel like that's tough. I wouldn't bet that. I might bet we might flip flop on there. If you take the kick, I would take the longest pass, or the most passing yards in a season.
I think that's fair. I think I'd go for the field goal over it. I mean, what's the longest field goal each year?
Well, 66 was 2021. I just think the way that coaches go for it more on 4th down, like you got to be in a win or lose situation. Your game is on the line and you only got to the 42-yard line or whatever.
This article's behind a paywall. 62-yard field goal kicked in 2023. So yeah, maybe 62.5 is too much because we could see, so 2019, 63 yards.
Which article are you looking at right now? I'm
on Pro Football Network.
Okay, so I got one from Fox Sports, the longest field goals in the regular season. And the last 6 of them, and 7 of 9 are all in recently. And it's 2021 is 66 yards, 2013 is 64 yards, 2019, 63 yards, 2018, 63, 2012, 63, 2011, 63, 2022, 62, 2019, 62. You do see it. It does happen.
That's crazy. I had no idea the record was 63 yards for so long. I thought it was always like 61.
Oh, 63 with the guy from the Saints.
Yeah, from the 70s.
Yeah.
And again in 1998.
And then it got smashed and people tied it a few times.
Yeah. So, and then, the record is 66 with
That's incredible.
Justin Tucker, but it was Prater for the Broncos, 64 and 13. I remember that. But
Matt Prater, he was a Lions kicker too. Justin Tucker killed me last year because he missed like a 55-yarder against the Colts, and I would have hit my parlay. It was like a 16 parlay. I hit all 5 games before that. And the announcers are like, Justin Tucker's automatic from 50 plus, doesn't miss. I'm sitting there counting the money I don't have, and the dude leaves it like 5 yards short. I'm like, what?
Yep.
But, well, let us know what you think your favorite season-long props are. I have too many, but most of them involve Curtis Samuel. So I'm going to be taking a look at those sports books after I get paid on Friday, and we will try to share those. I'll send you some of those, John, and see what we can get going for this long-term 6-month investment. What they say, you can buy a CD right now for 5.7% interest over 6 months. So you gotta make more than 5.7% gambling over 6 months to count it a win. against
which is
the federal
tough.
markets.
Which is tough. So, all right, well, that's going to do it for this one. You guys can find us on all platforms at Not Buff Podcast. Again, you can send us a voice message, send us your thoughts, rant. We'll play it on the show, all that stuff. You can find that using the ffm.bio link that's in all of our show notes, all of our video descriptions, and on all of our social media pages. So anyway, we'll be back next week. And until then, go Bills.
Go Bills.